Hello everyone, my name is Greg Gelson and I'm with Profilitec. Profilitec makes the industry's most advanced installation systems for flooring. Welcome to another internal training module. Today we're going to focus on a very important topic called Uptec. Uptec is a product we have which is a pedestal for exterior raised floors. So what do we mean by an exterior raised floor? Exterior raised floors are systems in which the flooring material is placed on pedestals instead of being bonded. We'll get into more details as we go further in this presentation, but what we want to do is, number one, explain to you what is a raised floor installation system, what is a pedestal system, and what product does Profilitec have that is the most advanced in the category, which is our Uptec system. So, to explain to you what is a pedestal for outdoor raised floors. So pedestals are essentially units that are placed on a substrate and tile is placed onto these pedestals. As the picture on the left would show you, a pedestal system is one in which you have pedestals supporting your flooring material as opposed to that material being bonded. So the benefits, the reason being is a porcelain tile, as you can see here. Porcelain tile is an ideal surface for an exterior application. It's ideal because it's vitreous. It doesn't absorb moisture. It doesn't absorb moisture. There's no freeze-thaw cycle issues with a porcelain tile. Easy to maintain, resistant surface, wear resistant. There's many benefits to these porcelain products, porcelain tiles that are on the market today, but the way that they're traditionally installed has been problematic, which we'll also discuss in later slides. So, as the next slide will show you, what is a pedestal? Again, a pedestal, as opposed to bonding your flooring material to your substrate in a traditional fashion, a pedestal system is a unit, generally a plastic unit that's placed generally at each corner of a tile and simply loose laid on top of these pedestals. They are raised over the substrate, as the picture on the left would indicate. These pedestal systems create a raised installation. And these raised installations means that there's no direct relationship between the flooring material and the structure below. These are some of the best benefits of the system, which again, we'll look at in further slides. So, as the next slide will show you, next slide will show you. So, a pedestal system has been developed because of the problems associated to typical exterior bonded installations. If we want to put tile, porcelain tile or stone on an exterior, generally that process has been to bond that tile to the structure. Bonding the tile by means of a mortar-based adhesive, or thin set as they call it, onto the structure, or by placing and building what's called a mortar bed. These tiles are essentially attached directly to your structure, typically a concrete structure, as you could see in the picture above. However, regardless of the advancements in mortars, the advancements in waterproof systems, the advancements in grouting material, and even the advancements in tile technology, exterior applications continue to be the most commonly, the highest failure rate in our industry. Freeze-thaw cycles, tiles that are exposed to constant moisture and sunlight create tremendous amounts of stresses and pressures on the tile, and tile very often can either tent, lift, shear off the installation as you see right here. Obviously, additional to that, you have freeze-thaw issues. If you're in a climate that has very, a lot of temperature extremes, moisture that infiltrates into the assembly can freeze, create expansion, and cause issues with your tile. As you can see in this in this installation, and actually there are many additional problems associated to bonded exterior applications, such as, next slide please, such as efflorescence. Efflorescence is a very, very common problem associated to exterior bonded tile. Efflorescence is simply the salt or the calcium residue from the evaporation of moisture onto the surface of your structure, of your tile layer. If you have a situation or mortar-based adhesives or any type of mortar in the installation, the Portland in that mortar has a lot of soluble salts that eventually will show up on the surface of the tile or on the adjacent structures, as you see on the picture on the right side. So there are a number of issues related to bonded installations that pedestal systems have been developed as the solution. So as we can see in this slide, one of the common questions is this a new concept? The reason why the tile industry now is heavily focused on pedestal or raised flooring installations is that we're trying to compete with what has been done for several years now in the concrete industry, which is concrete pavers on top of pedestals. So concrete pavers have been around for a long time. Many rooftop decks that you see, pool surrounds and so forth, terraces and plaza decks, you will see concrete paver tile, and a lot of them are placed on these pedestals. The tile industry has created what they believe to be a better solution to concrete pavers, which is the 2 centimeter or 3/4 inch porcelain paver tiles, which is on the image on the right side. And those 3/4 inch thick material or 2 centimeter thick material are appropriate to be used on top of these pedestals for exterior applications. And as the next slide here shows, the difference between a concrete paver and a porcelain paver. There's many benefits to a porcelain paver tile as opposed to your typical concrete. Concrete paver tiles are typically 2 inches thick or more, whereas a porcelain paver is generally 3/4 of an inch thick. So it's significantly thinner. It's significantly lighter. Instead of being 80 pounds or more for a concrete paver tile, a typical porcelain paver is in the vicinity of 40 pounds, putting less stress and less load on your structure. And most importantly is the absorption rate. The absorption rate of concrete paver tiles can be 5% or more. Porcelain pavers is less than 0.5%, which means that you have significantly less chance of moisture absorbing into that tile. And that could be moisture from water, from rain, causing freeze-thaw issues, or worse, it could be on a plaza deck where somebody spills wine or something else, staining that material. So porcelain pavers have many, many benefits compared to your traditional concrete pavers. And our system, Uptec, is designed specifically for the porcelain paver, industry. So in the next slide, we're going to talk about some of the benefits of exterior raised flooring. Again, we said we talk about what it is, define it as we've just done. We're now going to explain to you what the benefits are of a raised installation versus a bonded installation. So as you can see on the right side, bonded installation means that the tile itself is adhered directly to the structure. That could be a concrete deck, a rooftop, a pool surround, whatever it is. If you decide to bond tile, you are asking the tile to be connected to the structure, and therefore any type of structural stresses can transmit directly to the tile layer, causing cracking. Whereas on the left side, a typical raised installation over pedestals, the tile is not bonded, it's simply loose laid or placed on top of these pedestals. So there's no direct connection between the structure and the tile layer, and therefore no transfer of stress. Cracking or shearing or disbonding is never an issue in a raised exterior application. And problems with cracking and so forth in bonded installation is a very high percentage in typical applications. So on the next slide, Another benefit of raised flooring, again, tile is not adhered. The tile is simply placed on top of these pedestals. So, wiring, piping, drainage, and so forth occurs underneath, and access to those materials is easy. If ever you have a problem with a blocked drain, you simply lift your tile, fix your drain. If you have a wire that has to be replaced or a pipe, you simply lift those tiles, replace or fix those pipes, and replace the tile. In a bonded application, any types of problems underneath is a very costly and very labor-intensive process to rectify. So one of the biggest advantages of a raised floor application, a pedestal installation, is access to your structure. On the next slide, another major benefit to exterior pedestal or raised flooring installations is that on an exterior raised pedestal installation, your tiles are set on pedestals. And those pedestals are of varying heights to address the elevations that you're going to have on your structure. So typically, if it's a rooftop or a pool surround, industry requirements or building code requirements for moisture flow would say that that structure has to have a slope integrated onto the structure. If it's a roof, that rooftop is sloping towards your drains. So when you have an exterior application with raised pedestals, the tile layer, the joints of your tile are open for the purpose of moisture flowing through the open grout joints, landing onto your waterproof roof, and circulating unimpeded directly to your drain. As opposed to on the right side of this slide, we see a typical tile installation that's bonded. So by TCNA standards, if you were to bond a tile over a roofing membrane for an exterior application, the detail requires you to incorporate a 2-inch reinforced mortar bed, thin set, tile, movement joints, and so on and so forth. And that tile layer must be sloped towards the drains in order to allow moisture to flow on the surface, as opposed to in a pedestal installation, moisture freely flows through the grout joints onto your waterproof or your roofing membrane, and moisture flows freely to the drains. So that being the case, a typical pedestal installation is a uniform look. There are no grout joints, there are no movement joints, there is no slope, and there are no drains visible on that surface. The drainage occurs underneath. The tile layer is completely flat, and the surface is completely uniform, which makes for a much nicer looking installation. So to the next slide. Let's understand a bit of the basics of a pedestal installation. As I explained before, one of the main benefits of a pedestal installation is that your pedestals in any project will adapt to the elevations you have present on that particular application. For instance, a rooftop. A rooftop by industry or building code requirements must be sloped towards a drain or the perimeters where moisture or water is to be evacuated. So because pedestal systems or raised floor installations allow you to have a completely flat surface, the way that's achieved is that the pedestals that you're going to be using will have to vary in height. For instance, at your door frame, where you enter that particular application, you may have a 2-inch clearance at that area. But as you move towards the drains to respect the 1/4 inch per foot sloping requirements, your requirement or your height of pedestals will change as you get closer to the drains. As in this example, you can see that there's multiple pedestals here to address the height requirements to allow you to have a perfectly flat surface. So that being the case, typical or traditional pedestals that are available on the market generally vary in height or are adjustable in height of approximately 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. Which means for a larger installation, which most of these exterior decks tend to be, you are going to have a variety of different heights that you must address. If you're, again, starting at a 2-inch clearance at a doorway and you're getting to a drain that's 20 feet away, you may have a significant height difference between your clearance, your doorway, and your drain if you want to keep a completely flat surface. So you may have an 1.25-inch pedestal at the doorway, and you may have a 6-inch pedestal near the drain in order to maintain a completely flat surface. As traditional pedestals vary in height, can be adjustable by about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, it means that for traditional pedestal assemblies, you're going to need a multitude of different pedestals to address a typical application. So as you can see in this slide, in the next slide please, you can see that we've listed here typical pedestal companies available in the market. For typical installations, the number of different pedestals that you may need for a typical application may vary from 21 to 32 different pedestals, which means that you need to have a different pedestal to address all the different elevations you're going to have on that particular installation. So this is very complex, complicated, difficult to purchase, and difficult to understand. Next slide, please. So why is Profilitec more advanced? Well, as we just described, typical pedestal installations are difficult and complex because you're going to need and to understand how many pedestals you need for that particular installation. Profilitec-Uptec is the first modular pedestal system in the world, which means that as opposed to having to work with anywhere from 20 to 32 different SKUs for any typical application, with 3 or 4 SKUs, Uptec can address any situation that you may come across. So when we say any installation, how does the modularity of is there modularity in the Uptec system? There is essentially 3 basic SKUs as opposed to 27 with other companies. Our SUPAL, which is SUPAL low pedestal, is the starter pedestal, we would call it, for any installation where you have an 1 1/8 up to 1 3/4 of height requirement. That pedestal would be used. Anything beyond that, from 1 3/4 to anything, would be our standard pedestal, the SUPAS. The SUPA is the standard pedestal that enables, that's your base pedestal that can address any situation. And the modularity comes from the SUPAR modular ring that we show you here. The SUPAR, the SUPAR, is the modular ring that can be attached to our SUPA to address any height requirement on site without having to worry about a variety of different SKUs necessary for a typical application. So as the next slide would indicate, we went ahead. In addition to the fact that it's a modular system, another first for the industry, Uptec has a variety of replaceable heads. Now, the head of a pedestal is what establishes the spacing between your tile. It enables you to properly place your tile, and the Profilitec-Uptec system is the only system that gives you multitude of replaceable heads to address any need that you have in your installation. The first one, the SUPA 2 that you see at the top, is pretty much your standard head. This head provides you with a 2 millimeter joint between tiles, which is less than 1/8 of an inch, and it's 3/32 of an inch to be specific. This is your standard joint width. You don't want a joint that's too large, because then you may have problems with high heel shoes and so forth. But this joint, the SUPA 2, is your standard. If you require a joint that's larger for whatever reason, we also have the SUPA 4, which is a 3/16 joint as opposed to 3/32. This is also you clip off the regular one and you just attach this one. It's a simple click in place option. Another option that's actually more popular in Europe is the SUPA with the W, the SUPAW. This is our wood tab. In certain situations, pedestal systems are used and you can attach wood framing joists onto the pedestal to attach your flooring material. This is actually becoming increasingly common for exterior pedestal applications. So again, another benefit to the Profilitec-Uptec are the replaceable heads that are available with our system. Going further, another thing that's required, or that's a very innovative aspect of a pedestal system, as we mentioned earlier, when installing pedestals, one of the objectives and the benefits is that your layer, your tile layer in a pedestal installation is completely flat as opposed to sloped if you're bonding tile. So that's a big benefit. But to achieve that flatness, there's two ways of doing so. The picture on the right side shows you a pedestal that is adapting to the slope and the structure while maintaining levelness or flatness on the tile surface by using a wedge system under the pedestal. These are traditional, sort of older technology systems. The more advanced systems, the pedestal shown on the left side, is a pedestal with a self-leveling head. A self-leveling head simply means that the pedestal will take the slope and the structure, but the looser self-leveling head will adjust with gravity to enable you to have a completely flat surface. This is an innovation that has been a very time efficient system for the installers on the market. However, in typical pedestal installations, you actually need two. You need both. You need both a self-leveling pedestal and you need a fixed pedestal. And the reason being, which is shown better on the next slide, is that when you're using a self-leveling pedestal, you must have 4 equal size and weight tile on each corner for the surface to self-level. When you have a situation as you would have in perimeters or with cut tile, a self-leveling pedestal won't work because the weights aren't equal and therefore it won't lay flat. So in those circumstances, you do need a fixed head pedestal, which is one that will have a compensator on it. And Profilitec is the only company to have designed the only pedestal system that actually can be either self-leveling or fixed head. On the top of the pedestal of our Profilitec-Uptec pedestal, there is a green knob. When that knob is turned tightly, the pedestal is now a fixed head pedestal. When that knob is loosened, the pedestal is a self-leveling pedestal. This is a major innovation and one of the patents that we have on our system so that on-site the contractor can adapt to the conditions that are present. Alternatively, with traditional pedestals in which both fixed and self-leveling heads are available, you'll need to have both versions available. The Profilitec-Uptec system is the only pedestal that allows you to adapt to both, to adjust to both a fixed head or self-leveling on site for every pedestal. This significantly reduces the time and the amount of products required on a typical installation. One of the most important benefits to our system. So that being said, the fact that we have an adjustable fixed to self-leveling pedestal, the fact that we can adjust on site with very few products, enabling you to adapt to any condition, the typical SKU requirements for a typical application for Profilitec-Uptec is 6 compared to a minimum of 24 and up to 32 for other systems. So this makes it much, much easier for everyone involved, for the contractor, for the distributor, for the dealer, for whoever. Having to handle 6 SKUs as opposed to 32 SKUs for a typical application is a major, major benefit. So a little example on the next slide, please. A little example of this. This is sort of a very brief, more of a business or logistics orientated benefit sheet. When it comes to inventory requirements for our system to address typical applications, to be prepared to address this category, typical pedestal companies will require to have 26 pallets in inventory. For Profilitec, it's 5. The stock value can be well over 50,000. For Profilitec, it's 10,000. And the competitors require you approximately 20 SKUs minimum. For us, it's 5 SKUs. So there's tremendous benefit, logistical, practical benefits associated to a system that has minimal SKU requirements. And that's one of the best advantages that you're going to have with Profilitec. So again, Profilitec is the world's first modular pedestal system, as you can see here. To reiterate, as opposed to having to have multiple SKUs, you have a system that can be adjusted on site. This becomes very important when you have a situation where, well, we'll talk about that a little later, but as you can see, just to give you more clarity here, the modularity of the system simply means you determine what your requirements are. You have available your Supar modular rings to give you whatever height that you require, and essentially it's a set and go system. It's like putting together a Lego set. It's extremely easy, extremely adaptive. As you can see right here, build on site. Whatever condition you have, you can adapt to it on site, which is a very important feature of the product, as we show you right here. Modularity of the system is extremely important. Very often on job sites, the amount or the SKUs that a contractor will bring to a commercial project will be dependent or based on a rendering, a drawing, a blueprint that's been developed by somebody. And very often those blueprints don't actually match the actual field conditions. And very often half of the material that's been brought to site is not usable and has to be replaced. With the Profilitec, the modularity of the Profilitec system, it means that regardless of what conditions that you have, regardless of what surprises that you might find, regardless of inaccuracies between a job site plan and the actual job site, you can adapt on the fly. You can remove or add rings, you can change heads. It's a modular system designed to adapt to any scenario. And that's one of the biggest advantages of the Uptec system. So, next slide, please. Additional benefits, some of the things that are a little less apparent. Our replaceable head is made of a rubber that will contribute up to a 25 decibel reduction in sound transmission. This is also very important. Our systems have an easy lock-in mechanism to make sure that they're stable and for simplicity. And it also, the system is available with what we call a 3-function key. This key is available to allow you to do your on-site height adjustments. For tab removal, you'll need to remove tabs occasionally for perimeter tile, and also the switch button, or the switch that allows you to go from self-leveling to fixed head. The tool is designed to be able to either close or open that switch as well. The Profilitec system is, again, the most advanced in the industry. We've talked about the practical benefits compared to other pedestal systems, as well as compared to bonded assemblies. But the Profilitec system has been vigorously tested both independently and in our own laboratories, and has been determined to have the highest point load capability of any system on the market today. All the testing information and documentation is available on request, but this is the highest or best performing point load system available on the market. And most importantly, as pedestals get higher, they tend to become less stable. The Profilitec-Uptec system is as stable higher as it is lower. This is a very important benefit to the Uptec system. So, just to finish, we have a number of different marketing tools to help support you in the field. We have a rendering video that's available. We have a brochure. We have a very in-depth 100-page technical manual. We have the Profilitec-Uptec is listed in our price list. All the components are there. in our suggested retail price list. And we have a very, very effective marketing tool, which is an architectural box that has a physical sample of the suppal, the support, and the supar along with a detachable head. It can be a point of sale display when it's opened up a certain way, or an architectural tool for a representative to show it to their customers. This is, it's a very, very complete offering. And we also have, next slide please. We also, again, all the different components are also available, which we didn't talk about today. We have clips for exterior perimeters to attach riser tiles if you need to hide the assembly. We have low pedestals, starter pedestals to start. This is an entirely complete system that addresses every condition necessary on a typical pedestal installation. Of course, a few product shots here. Exterior balconies, exterior terraces, patios, pool surrounds are becoming increasingly popular. Pedestal installations are growing very, very rapidly in popularity. So a few take-home points to finalize this presentation. I can see we just went over 30 minutes. The market for exterior porcelain pavers on raised pedestals is the fastest growing trend in the tile industry. A lot of people don't realize that. But many architects are no longer specifying bonded tiles. They're going to be specifying pedestal installations for all the benefits that we've talked about before. These projects are typically large square footage projects, so there's a good opportunity for salespeople out there. And Profilitec-Uptec is the simplest, the least time consuming, and by far the most cost-effective system available. And Profilitec offers a full line of tools to support the Uptec product. This further reinforces Profilitec's positioning of being the most advanced in the flooring industry for installation systems. Everything we make has to be the best performing, otherwise we simply will not bring it out. So we hope you enjoyed this internal training module. I think there's one more slide to indicate that we do have. We are on YouTube. Unfortunately, you can't click on the link here, but if you just search on Profilitec-Uptec, you will see a very neat and simple installation video that gives you a broader understanding, as a picture is worth 1,000 words, a broader understanding of the Uptec, the benefits of Uptec. So I hope you all enjoy this. Stay tuned for more presentations as we go forward. Again, I'm Greg Gelson with Profilitec. Thank you very much for watching.